Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation, what is sensorality? So last time we derived, again, another fundamental theorem of physics, which does change quite a bit at the end of these proofs and throughout. But it's just a very clear, again, how comprehensive is this statement, is this truth, is this theorem? And so, right, resolution, what was it? Resolution produces definition. Again, that's physically. And so we have these two things, right, discrete units of charge, orbiting really fast, that's stabilized, that's mass, that's what everything is. But logically, what's relevant is you have periodicity, you have cycles, right? Our definitions of rhythm and vibration, rhythm, a cycle that does work, vibration, a cycle that doesn't do work, and to do work, movement is required. But the reality is, because of geometry, everything is always moving. And so those are mathematical, logical differentiations that have clear physical intuition, right? You say good vibes only, or you literally cannot turn on a physics if people are talking about fundamental physics, because I'm saying you can't avoid fundamental ontology and the small things, which is kind of where that word mostly applies. Vibration, it applies anywhere, and there's no that whole chunk of theory. Again, if you look at a black hole, or if you're looking at an atom, the pictures, right, the resolutions, again, literally look the same. And so this concept of fractality, physical proportions, scaling, there's no like absolute, there is absolute size, but we're limited within bounds, meaning the electron is not a point particle, but it still has this dynamic of two, this fundamental stability, this dichotomy. That dichotomy has been called charge, and it's stabilized, it's dynamic, it's stabilized. That's how you get the electron and you get the proton. The point being is there's still like there is absolute size. It does have but we're limited by measurement. So that's only like when you have a picture of an electron, which I don't even know, is that a thing? But we don't even have that, right? We have the picture of the atom. But point being is we just have, again, I forget where I was going. We have this mass is stabilized charge. And then we have this resolution, right? So with this, rhythm versus vibration being, again, definitions, right? And so everything's moving, everything is doing work, and making a differentiation between a cycle with rhythm, or a cycle that does work being rhythmic, and a cycle that doesn't doing work being vibrant. But again, that makes physical sense, right? If you're sitting here and you're trying to limit movement, you're going to force a system into vibration. You take a bunch of magnets and you enclose them, they're going to start jiggling around because they're going to be pushing against each other. And so that's where was I taking that again, rederiving everything pretty much as it happens, but getting to this point of everything's moving, every system is doing some amount of work, and every every movement creates entropy. And so we're always having this, again, increasing entropy. Started with this very low state of entropy, moving into a place of really high entropy. But that's cyclicity, right? Mathematically, thematically, logically, we've made a differentiation between vibration and rhythm. Physically, there is, but it's a limit, right? It's the same thing as this consequence. Both of them, vibration and rhythm, describe movement, but it's this cyclicity, this periodicity, this fundamental stability of two that we get. Where am I going with that? Just trying to expand on this, resolution produces definition physically, because that's cycling, right? When you have a picture that's blurry and you can't resolve the image, you can't see it, it's not defined well enough, right? A high definition TV has more pixels, has more resolution. And so the physical aspect, when you see something like that's really hot and it's vibrating and there's a physical distortion, when you see the heat wave coming off your stove or off your grill in the summer, and it's a physical distortion, the stability aspect of charge being stabilized and being cyclical, have some sort of periodicity, produces your resolution, right? The tighter that cycle is, the less vibration you have, the more resolution you can have, right? If it's vibrating, it's hotter, and then if something's hot, you can't, because the things are literally jiggling around and you take a picture of it, you can't resolve that image. This whole conversation, again, trying to get this relationship of resolution. You look at a screen, you just use your eyeballs and look at something, and those things are moving. Everything is dynamic. So your ability to see the boundary, right? How precise can you see the boundary of an object, right? That's physical stability of things orbiting one another. And so realization resolves, right? When you say you realize something, you're resolving it. In the same way when you take your camera lens and zoom it in and out, and you can literally see the discreteness of things going in and out of resolution. When you say logically you realize something or you learn something, you're physically equating that to that process of focusing your lens, of focusing resolution, making your resolution clearer. And that resolution exists because of temperature, of how fast these things are vibrating. And so, can we state a proportionality? I guess, again, just the more regular a cycle is, the more precise the resolution. Regularity is proportional to resolution. Tension resolves. You have a system that is removed from equilibrium. It's going to tend to return to equilibrium. You're going to resolve tension. Sensorality resolves speciality, right? The natural tendency to differentiate for sexual antagonism. You're younger, you want to attract a mate, you go chase the career, you go have the crazy hairdo, you go to the protest, whatever it is. You make yourself different. As you get older, it's like, okay, settle down a little bit. Soreness is essential, right? If you didn't get sore when you worked out, you would have more physical injury. Your body would not have this processing to just say something bad is occurring. Sensorility is soreness. Again, sensorily is another one of these forms that you've seen, you've used. You can type it in on your, it has enough frequency of use, you can type it into Google and it'll autocorrect it to you. That is a direct form of sensorality to sensorility, sensorily, sensorility. Again, just trying to conceptually, keeping your intuition present with me, and then we're just going to state the answer once we get to it. Because again, it's a physical process. The days just have to pass until we get to the completing part of this proof. Because no one step is any more unique or more special or more important than any other one. It's just the completeness demonstration is the part where you can see all of these aspects in one little thing. Speciality is frivolity. Sensorility is frivolous. Frivolous is trivial. Triviality is inconsequential. Sensorality is inconsequentiality. Regularity produces resolution. So that's what I just rederived for you here. So we have those theorems. Rhythm regulates regularity. Again, how tight that cycling is. Doesn't really matter if you call it vibration or rhythm. That periodicity. Regulate regularity. Sensorality regulates. Definition regulates conceptualization, right? When I say a word, you start thinking of something, right? That's conceptualization. Regularity is essential, right? The more predictable something is, you can have a pattern. You can have metabolism if it's regular, right? You eat and you sleep and you metabolize things in a structured way. And so if you didn't, you would die. And so regularity is essential. Sensorility essentiates. Sweating is essential. Again, why did we go to sweating there? Again, it's the letters, the structures. We're just putting these letters, words in order to get this stabilizing thing. As I've said 100 trillion times, my rights are still violated. It is all illegal. No one cares. Sweet, sweat. Don't sweat it. Sensorality is sweet. Sweet is delicious. Ramro cha, mito cha. Delicious, delirious. Delirious is disillusioned. Sensorality is dissolution. Solution, dissolution. Dissolving decompresses. Right? So what is the relationship of resolution and dissolution? If you resolve something versus if something dissolves. Right? Dissolves, it goes away. Resolves, focus. Dissolution is the opposite of resolution. Dissolving decompresses, solving presses. Presses, pressures. Direction is direct. Someone comes up to you and says, hey, be direct with me. Right? We've derived and shown you, again, people will say we live in 3 dimensions. I physically don't even know what the word dimension is supposed to reference. Right? You have pairs of directions, forward, backward, up, down, left, right. And that mapping gives you 3 pairs of 2, and somehow people say 3 dimensions. But that's the operative word that is wrong there, or just direction versus dimension, right? the unique difference between any 2 points is a line, and you move on that tension path physically. All of my mass is pointed right to the center of the Earth's center of mass is pointed towards the sun, and so you have a tension path of things removed from equilibrium trying to return to stability. Right? Stability is equilibrium. And so, but if someone says, be direct with me, they're telling you to be straightforward. Right? Now that would present in a logical concept. Like you're talking to somebody, you're a kid, and you did something bad, and your teacher, your parents, like, be direct with me, be straightforward, what happened? But logically, what is that straightforward? Right? You can only go forward or backward, right? Straight, on a straight line. But lines don't exist. But you can only follow the tension path. And so, direct is obviously a truncation of direction. But when someone says, be direct with me, that's what they're saying. Don't circumvent the truth. Don't beat around the bush. Be direct. Be direction. Be directionality. Have direction in your life. And so that is the dichotomy, direction versus dimension. And yeah, we've covered the geometric set. I don't like to retry it because there's nothing else to say. Right? All of the big things with green letters, I mean, there's this poignant, the fundamental intuition striking me as I'm actively deriving an axiom is the most poignant intuition you can have, most poignant realization you can have. So that's why I document this as it happening. I don't edit shit unless I say something where it's like YouTube might ding me, and that's like once in a blue moon. But point being is that I show you every step of this realization process. But direct is straightforward. What is direct to discrete? All right. If I'm going on a direction, I'm going on a straight path, I have to like follow the geometry of the objects I'm interacting with. And all of these objects are discrete. Right? You take your camera lens and move it in and out of focus. You see those hard cut lines of shapes. And that's from the atomic level up to the resolution of your camera. Discretion is direction. Right? If you have a lot of direction in your life, you'll be discreet about your personal life. It doesn't matter what the explanation is, just showing you, if I say 2 words that it's not very clear as why is it related, I'll give you some context. But technology, detection, right? So we have that phonetic preserved from those 2 words. Still don't know what technology is. A sensor is a detector, but now a lot of these will still be on the screen. Again, anything relevant will be put on the screen. But a sensor, again, we've proven the spelling of inanimate objects filtering information. Linguistically, if it ends in OR, right, you spell detector with an OR and put ality at the end, you generalize to orality. And then we're back to the empirical fact that individuals, sentient beings, are the ones expressing language. And so everything is already like personified. And so when you say detector and you spell it, again, this is this huge chunk of spelling is a well-defined thing, and I can't sit here and articulate it what it is. You can find a bunch of words that are spelled right and wrong all over the place, but we're still not like there. We haven't like solidified what is spelling. But point being is people will spell detector with an OR, and you say, why is it spelled like that? And they'll say, it just is. And then you're already back to it is what it is, but why is it what it is? And so there is limits, but spelling has not been linguistics in its whole is not been like rigorously centralized. Spelling has not been rigorously centralized. Grammar has not been rigorously centralized. Holy cow. Anything that you would define as linguistics, language learning, is not in any way, I guess, one of these emergent systems, like it's economy, it's linguistics. Nobody has even like gotten there. If you're still sitting there saying, oh, I don't know what physics is, the thing that's definitively solved in the past, you can't begin to describe or talk about the emergent systems ontologically with the correct verbiage. And so, point being is detector, if someone just said it's spelled DITECTOR, which that's what's going to come up on your computer, there's no reason, there's no fundamental derivation truth to that. It just is what it is. And that's what it's like, right? You get what I'm saying. Point being is a sensor is a detector, but spelled the correct way. It'll be on your screen, all E's. And again, linguistically, or the structure of the word, if it ends in an OR, it will generalize to orality, and orality only applies to things with mouths. But a sensor is a detector, the spelling. We now have logical motivation and physical motivation to spell them differently. But that's still like in my personal life, like when I'm over here trying to get my alcohol partners to do something because my constitutional rights are violated. Like I will spell in my emails rights, R-I-G-H-T. When I'm speaking Spanish, I will say por favor. But it's just, por favor, is like, that one logically is okay, by favor literally, but the usage of para o por is like so wrong all of the time that like it's like, what is everybody talking about? But it's just one of those things where it's like, you kind of like learn the slang lingo, you learn the contractions that aren't really true, and you learn the context. You know when to say these things, but then you think about, what am I saying, right? For favor, para favor, or por favor, right? By favor. That one logically isn't like that cumbersome at all. But if in English, if I said, can you do this for me, right? For a favor is what you would say, the preposition you would use. By a favor, like by chance, you might say that in English, would be a phrase people use. But by a favor, by chance, can you do this for me? Por favor. And favor is obviously favor, literally. But point being is I will use personally, like if I were to spell my constitutional rights are violated, and absolutely at this point, 100% complete in this, complete, anything complete logically it is what it is. Like that is the form of everything, right? And then the specificity, the ing, we go from it to ing. That's the, what is this thing? What does it function? What does it do? But if I write an email and I said, you know, my rights are violated, R-I-T-E-S, I don't need to ask anybody. That person, whoever I send that to, a lawyer, my business partner, some other person, they are going to think I'm a fucking idiot. Like there's like, why'd you spell this wrong? And again, it's just such a level. So like on a personal level, I will spell things full-fledgedly wrong just to like not cause, right? Like what am I going to go do? Like tell somebody like rights are spelled incorrectly and everybody is spelling it incorrectly? It's just like one of these practical applications of, it's completely wrong, but it's just like, what do you do like on a day-to-day basis? But regardless, sensorality is detectorality. Again, no O's, E's, and then ality. Detectorality is sensorality. Sensorality with a C, all E's. Sensorality shrouds. Right? If it's shrouded, it's censored. What is sensation to resolution? Right? Now, how does this, we have sensation, I'm Brad, what do my fingers do? Right? How does sensation relate to resolution? Right? The more precise, the more accurate. Again, there's no point to sit here and try to answer the question. The words, the logic is contained within the words. And so we just have to pose the right question. What is the thematics of mathematics, self-contained type of thing? And then the linguistics, the letters representing the sounds, will derive and produce our next word form and solidify, stabilize our definition, axiomatize sensorality. We continue to move. Again, always begin, like I said, this process never stops. Speciality is special with an ITY, is this whole process publicly derived, completely done when I was 23. And so there's no special point of this proof where it's like, again, on a practical level, meaning my rights will stop getting violated, I will get paid something, people will stop profoundly disrespecting me, as an instinctual reaction. Again, this entire time, people will viscerally respond to my presence, to my presentation of language, and to the logic that is contained within. And it's destroyed everything. So it's like on a personal level, I'm sitting here for over 10 years, while every personal interaction I have is like this visceral response. And it's like, can someone please just give me some money to make that shit stop? And the answer has been fuck no at 1,000,000 times over. And so we'll do another legal and continue on with all of my content. But another cease and desist, again, to everybody. I mean, at this point, since part 260, and again, you see we're still making huge chunks, because again, it doesn't stop. I mean, we just rederive more axioms. And the intuition, there's always new shit out there, right? There's more things that are known knowns, known unknowns, going from deriving the known unknowns. I don't even like that structure. I mean, there's always just more shit to do, right? The incompleteness theorem is we're going to prove that there's infinitely many more true statements than there are provably true statements, which we've already proven. I've already proven multiple times. And so the process will never end. But regardless, in addition, I'm just sitting here talking through me on a personal level. These videos as intellectual property. All of this realization I've already personally had. And so I don't get to make any actual money off of my property. The only thing I'm trying to resolve on a personal level is just this, my personal living environment, not understanding that there is legitimately nothing I can do, nowhere I can go, no law enforcement. I've put up billboards, I've offered real money. I mean, like, the extent of I am kicked out of society, mandated by the government itself. That is a fact. There is nothing I can do to make that not a fact. I sit here and state the law every video. But that is what I am trying to resolve, is this process of I clearly can't function in society to the point where this intelligence agency apparatus moves in next to me and asks me why I'm still like flopping around. And I'm flopping around because my personal life isn't resolved and my parents don't understand that there's this massive intelligence apparatus that is pervasive anywhere and they can do whatever they want, said to me, to my face, by them. And they haven't experienced that. They haven't experienced going to the FBI building and the FBI is like spooked out by the actual security apparatus. And so like I am like out of society and I don't even care. I just want my day-to-day life, if I can do my work, document my research. Again, this box of books I have sitting here with a ton more research. As long as I can just get my shit done, I don't care. And on a day-to-day life, if I have a little bit of money, which at this point is truly just the assurance that I'm not going to get extorted more than all of the crime that's already being committed actually. I have enough money where I could put it again on one of these little index funds, make $40,000 to $60,000 a year, and just go to national parks, go to state parks, do my videos, and walk around in nature. Because that is the most fulfilling for me. Again, I want a wife, but that's just, without acknowledgement of my research and my capacity, that's not going to happen. And having a family is what I want. That's my goal. But I can have a completely fulfilled life if I can just have physical stability, financial stability, literally. I continue to beg. It's going to be into every single one of my videos until something changes, which seems to be fucking never. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.